There is a quiet truth waiting beneath the clamor of your mind, a whisper resting beneath the loud urgency of the world. And it is this: you do not become abundant. You remember that you already are. You do not wait for reasons to be grateful. Gratitude itself is the reason. And when you align with this simple, sacred truth, life in all its infinite grace begins to open effortlessly, miraculously, abundantly. Gratitude is not a reaction. It is a vibration. It is not something you feel because life gave you what you wanted. It is the silent yes to life, exactly as it is. It is the inner blooming of a soul that finally remembers, I already have everything. I already am everything. So many walk this earth convinced that abundance is out there, locked in future paychecks, hidden in someone else's approval, waiting at the end of some distant goal. But the awakened soul knows abundance is not something you attract by wanting it. It's something you align with by being. It is not a prize given for good behavior. It is your natural state when you stop resisting what is. Shift to gratitude and everything changes. Not because life suddenly rearranges itself to suit your preferences, but because your perception becomes the lens of a soul that sees clearly. When you look through the eyes of lack, the world appears scarce. When you look through the eyes of the ego, there's always something missing. But when you look through the eyes of gratitude, you realize you were never lacking. You were only asleep to the gift of this very moment. The Tao Te Ching tells us, be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is not a metaphor. It is a spiritual law. Gratitude unlocks what force cannot. It opens the door to abundance, not through demand, but through surrender. Not through force, but through alignment. There is a divine intelligence running through all of life. It causes the sun to rise without your permission. It breathes you while you sleep. It orchestrates the dance of stars and sea and seasons, and you are part of that choreography. You are not here to control life. You are here to cooperate with it, and gratitude is how you say yes. Gratitude is the vibration that tells the universe, I trust, I receive, I allow. You may believe you have reasons to wait. Wait until the debt is paid. Wait until the body is healed. Wait until the relationship is fixed. But the soul does not wait. The soul rejoices now. The soul sees blessings in the breaking, treasures in the trial, miracles in the mundane. It doesn't ask for perfect conditions. It blesses the imperfection. If you want to know abundance, stop asking, what can I get? And begin asking, what can I bless? Shift from demanding more to cherishing what is. Shift from striving to deserving. Shift from chasing to choosing. And in that sacred shift, the universe responds not because it was withholding, but because you were resisting. Gratitude is not naive. It does not ignore pain. It simply refuses to let pain be the only voice in the room. It does not deny sorrow. It just holds it in a wider space. A space where light can still enter, even through the cracks of suffering. As Rumi whispered, the wound is the place where the light enters you. And gratitude is how you keep that wound open not in despair, but in awe. Awe that even now, even here, even through this, there is beauty. You do not need to have it all figured out. You do not need to be fearless. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be present. Presence is the portal, and gratitude is the key. When you become deeply grateful for this moment, even without knowing what's next, you touch the divine. You merge with the sacred. You return to the now, where all power resides. The ego says, once I get more, then I'll be grateful. The soul says, be grateful, and you will receive more than you can imagine. Not because gratitude manipulates life into giving, but because gratitude clears the fog from your eyes, so you can finally see it was always here. Abundance is not more money. It is more awareness, more presence, more peace, more love. And all of these arise not from gaining anything, but from remembering everything. From remembering that this breath is enough. This sky is enough. This body, this moment, this life enough. Let the gratitude well up in you now, not for what's next, not for what's missing, but for what is. Let it rise like a tide in your chest. Let it soften your gaze, open your heart, slow your breath. Let it melt the armor around your thoughts. Let it remind you that this now is holy, not because of what it contains, but because of who is witnessing it. You, the sacred observer, you, the divine spark, You who have weathered storms and still stand. You who carry within you a wellspring of wisdom deeper than your fears, louder than your doubts. You who were never meant to earn your worth, only to remember it. And when you remember, truly remember, that life itself is the gift, not some future version of it, not some polished, perfected outcome, but this raw, pulsing, precious. Now then, you begin to live not as a beggar of blessings, but as a bearer of light. You begin to give from fullness. You begin to serve from overflow. You begin to walk through the world not asking, what do I lack, but declaring, how may I share what I already have? And in that declaration, in that vibration of open-hearted gratitude, the universe responds not out of duty, but out of resonance. Like attracts like. Frequency speaks louder than words, and the frequency of gratitude is the song of abundance. So sing it, not with your voice, but with your life. Sing it in how you rise each morning with reverence. Sing it in how you touch the earth with awareness. Sing it in how you forgive with softness. Sing it in how you love with wholeness. Let your presence be the hymn. Let your breath be the prayer. Let your being be the offering. And as you walk the path of gratitude, you will find that abundance no longer feels like something you pursue. It feels like something you are. Because when you live in the vibration of thankfulness, you are already rich. You are already free. You are already home. And home is where the blessings flow. And so, as you deepen into this awareness, let yourself dissolve into the vastness that gratitude reveals. Not a surface appreciation, but a soul-level reverence for the mystery that weaves every breath, every heartbeat, every unseen miracle that sustains your existence. Begin to realize that gratitude is not a response, it is a recognition, a sacred seeing, a dissolving of illusion that separates you from the source of all life. When you become still enough, empty enough, surrendered enough, you will begin to notice how life speaks in quiet languages. The flicker of a candle, the rhythm of your breath, the gentle warmth of sunlight on your skin. These are not ordinary things. They are invitations, reminders from the infinite that everything you need to feel whole has already arrived. Gratitude is the eye that sees again, the eye that looks upon even the most mundane moments and finds the holy within them, the eye that sees not through judgment but through wonder, not through lack but through love. And once you see this way, you can never unsee it. You begin to live with the awareness that you are perpetually standing on sacred ground. Let this truth soak into the marrow of your bones. The more you attune your heart to gratitude, the more you come into harmony with the divine order of the universe. Like a tuning fork struck into perfect resonance, your life begins to vibrate with clarity, with beauty, with grace. Not because the external world has conformed to your desires, but because you have remembered how to see with the eyes of your soul. There is a river flowing through all things unseen, eternal, and wise. It does not rush, it does not resist, it flows, and gratitude is how you step into that river. It is how you stop swimming upstream against life's currents and begin to float in the direction of your highest good. You stop asking for the map and start trusting the current. You stop grasping for outcomes and start feeling for alignment. In this space, you awaken not as a separate self trying to control life, but as a vessel through which life flows. You become the flute through which the divine breath plays its song, and that song is peace. That song is enoughness. That song is the quiet power of a being who needs nothing more to feel whole. Release the grip of needing things to be different. Let go of the belief that joy is conditional, that peace is somewhere else, that love must be earned. You are not here to fix anything. You are here to feel everything. You are here to honor the sacred in every circumstance, to bow before the now as if it were the temple of the divine, because it is. This is the shift from resisting what is to reverencing what is, from controlling life to communing with it, from fear to trust. And trust, when rooted in gratitude, becomes a force stronger than any obstacle, more healing than any remedy, more clarifying than any answer. When you live this way, each moment becomes alive with possibility, even the painful ones, even the confusing ones, because now you see, nothing is ever wasted. Every loss, every silence, every detour has been a part of your becoming. And gratitude does not wait for understanding. It bows even before the lesson is known, because it trusts the teacher behind the curtain. Gratitude turns your life into a sanctuary, It transforms your thoughts into prayers. It alchemizes your experiences into wisdom. It softens the hard places within you that once believed you had to fight for your place in the world. You no longer struggle for belonging because you now remember you belong to the infinite. And in this belonging, you are unshaken. The storms may come, but your roots are deep in truth. The noise may rise, but your center is anchored in silence. The world may clamor for your attention, but your soul is attuned to the divine hum beneath it all. This is the frequency of a grateful heart. This is the energy of true abundance, not measured in possessions, but in presence. Not counted in accolades, but in awareness. It is not what you hold that makes you rich, it is what you release. Not what you strive for, but what you surrender to. So exhale now. Release the striving. Let the moment catch you, hold you, breathe through you. You have never been separate. You have never been forsaken. You have never needed to be anything other than this. Aware, open, here. Let this breath be your altar. Let this stillness be your teacher. Let this moment be your miracle. And let gratitude be your way home. And as you dwell in this sacred state of awareness, feel how the pace of your life begins to slow, not in laziness, but in reverence. Like a monk walking barefoot on holy ground, you no longer race toward outcomes, you walk in communion with existence. The future no longer holds you hostage. The past no longer stains your present. You are no longer a servant to time, you are a partner with eternity. This, beloved soul, is the great reversal the ego never understands. When you stop chasing life, life begins to come to you. When you stop needing more, more begins to arrive. Not because the external world bends to your will, but because your will has surrendered into the rhythm of the divine. You have moved from resistance to receptivity. And that shift, that soft, quiet shift, alters everything. Gratitude does not bargain with life. It does not say, I will love you when. It says, I love you now. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is sacred. The broken, the unfinished, the misunderstood, it is all sacred. Even your pain is sacred. Even your longing is sacred. Even your waiting is filled with the presence of God, if only you would stop trying to rush your way past the lesson. You see, there is wisdom hidden in every season. Winter has its teachings. Stillness has its power. And gratitude allows you to receive it all, not just the blooms of spring, but the bare branches of winter. Not just the laughter, but the silence. Not just the answered prayer, but the aching in the dark. It is all part of the holy curriculum. When you live in gratitude, you no longer worship outcomes, you worship awareness. You don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel, you become the light inside it. You begin to see that joy is not a destination, but a depth, a presence, a sacred noticing of what's already here. And when you notice from this space, the world becomes new. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The simple becomes profound. A single cup of tea becomes a ceremony. A glance from a stranger becomes a divine encounter. The sound of the wind becomes scripture, not because anything changed, but because you did. You stopped looking for miracles and started seeing everything as one. This is what gratitude does. It peels away the veil of not enough. It clears the fog of comparison, the lie of separation. It returns you to unity, to wholeness, to the original state of your soul before the world told you who to be. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not incomplete. You are in the unfolding, and the unfolding cannot be rushed. A rose does not bloom by striving. The sun does not rise by effort. And you, beloved, do not awaken by pushing. You awaken by allowing, by softening, by receiving, by giving thanks not as a transaction, but as a declaration. I am already whole. I am already held. I am already home. Feel into that truth. Let it echo in the hollow places. Let it pour into the parts of you that have been waiting for someone else's permission to exhale. Let it rise within you like a holy fire. Not the fire of ambition, but the fire of remembrance. The fire that says, I am enough. This is enough. Now is enough. And from that flame, watch what begins to unfold. Watch how life no longer feels like a fight, but a dance. Watch how people show up, not because you need them, but because you no longer repel them with fear. Watch how opportunities arise, not because you chase them, but because you are now vibrating at the level of alignment. You are no longer trying to manifest things to fill a void. You are magnetizing your outer life to match your inner abundance. This is the path of the grateful soul. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It is not always understood by the world, but it is powerful. It is magnetic. It is true. And it is always available. All it requires is your presence, your willingness to return, your quiet courage to trust that you don't need more to be enough. You only need to see with different eyes. The eyes of the soul, the eyes of gratitude. The eyes that recognize heaven, not as a place you go, but a state you live. And when you live from that state, you don't just change your life, you change your frequency, you change your contribution, you change what you echo into the universe. And the universe always echoes back. And when the universe echoes back, it doesn't speak in the language of logic. It speaks in the language of resonance. You won't always receive what your mind requested, but you will always receive what your soul allowed. Not what you thought you needed, but what you've become aligned to. Because this isn't about deserving, it's about matching. Gratitude tunes your being to the frequency of wholeness, and wholeness attracts reflections of itself. You begin to see that the blessings you once prayed for weren't withheld, they were waiting for you to become still enough, open enough, present enough to receive them. Gratitude does not change what you have, it changes your capacity to receive what's already been given. There are no coincidences on this path. There are only mirrors life reflecting your inner world back to you with breathtaking accuracy. If your energy says, I am incomplete, the world obliges and offers scarcity. If your presence says, I am thankful, the world opens like a flower in the morning Sunday. It is not a transaction, it is a dance. And this dance is older than time. You, dear one, have always been dancing with the divine, even when you forgot the steps, even when you moved in fear, even when you sat down and called yourself lost. You were never lost. You were only learning how to listen. And gratitude is how you begin to hear the music again. The silent song beneath the noise. The rhythm that was never outside of you, it was pulsing in your heart the whole time. Can you feel it now? That quiet harmony calling you inward? That gentle pull away from the frenzy and toward the stillness? It is the soul's way of saying, come back, come home, come sit in the sacred now. Because the now is the only place where a life is ever happening. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but the now is reality. And gratitude anchors you in that holy present. It teaches you to stop looking for the light and start being the light. It teaches you to stop striving and start surrendering. And in that surrender, a miracle begins, not the miracle of something new arriving, but the miracle of seeing what has always been here. The breath, the body, the beauty, the being. You no longer measure your life by what you achieve, but by what you notice. You no longer chase moments, you become the moment. You no longer ask, how do I get more, but how do I love deeper? And love, real love, begins to rise not because it was missing, but because you have finally cleared space for it to live. That's what gratitude does. It clears, it purifies, it burns away the illusions of lack, the shadows of comparison, the noise of not enough. And in that clearing, the soul takes root again. The divine presence within you begins to rise, not with drama, but with dignity, with quiet strength, with silent knowing. And when you begin to live from that knowing, your very presence becomes a gift. Not your doing, not your accolades, not your image, but your being, your essence, your alignment. People feel it before you speak. Rooms soften when you enter. Not because you seek attention, but because you radiate authenticity. You are no longer trying to impress. You are no longer hiding behind masks. You are simply being, and that simple being, steeped in gratitude, shines more brightly than any performance ever could. This is the return to your true power. Not the power to control, but the power to allow, not the power to dominate, but the power to bless. Not the power to get, but the power to give from overflow. Because now you remember, the more you give thanks, the more you become thanks. The more you recognize the miracle, the more you become a living embodiment of that miracle. And when you become the miracle, you need not chase anything. You become the magnet. You become the vessel. You become the channel through which the infinite flows. And that, dear soul, is abundance. Not a number, not a possession, but a presence that cannot be lost because it was never separate from you. It was only waiting for you to say yes. And that yes is gratitude. So stay here in this space just a little longer. Let the vibration of that sacred yes reverberate through every cell, every thought, every silence. Do not rush away from this stillness, for it holds a wisdom the intellect cannot grasp, a medicine the mind cannot create. The more you linger in gratitude, the more you dissolve the boundaries between seeker and source. You are no longer apart from life. You are the pulse of life itself, breathing in rhythm with the infinite. Gratitude, when deeply embodied, becomes more than an emotion. It becomes a lens, a language, a state of being. It becomes the way your spirit touches the world, not through effort, but through emanation. You begin to bless things without needing to fix them. You begin to cherish moments without needing to capture them. You begin to see the divine not as something far away, but as the invisible thread holding everything together, every encounter, every lesson, every breath. And oh, the breath, how holy it becomes when seen through the eyes of thankfulness. Each inhale a gift, each exhale a release. You are no longer breathing just to survive. You are breathing as an act of devotion, as a way of honoring the miracle that you are. You who have endured so much. You who have walked through fire and come out with softer eyes. You who have been broken open, not to be diminished, but to be deepened. You are not here to control your life. You are here to receive it. And when you shift from grasping to receiving, the world softens. The future no longer feels like a threat. The unknown no longer feels like a void. It becomes a sacred space where miracles take root. And you no longer need to plan every step you need, only align with the frequency of gratitude and allow the path to rise up and meet your feet. This is what Jesus meant when he spoke of the lilies of the field, not striving, not toiling, yet clothed in greater beauty than kings. They do not chase abundance, they are abundance. And so are you when you release the illusion that you must become something more to be worthy of joy. The ego will resist this. It will clamor to be needed, to be busy, to prove. But the soul just wants to feel. It wants to bow. It wants to rejoice in the unseen harmony beneath the surface of things. It does not ask, what more can I do? It asks, how deeply can I receive? It knows that the true currency of the universe is not effort, it is presence, it is alignment. It is gratitude flowing through every gesture like golden light. And that light touches everything. It touches how you speak, turning your words into balm. It touches how you walk, turning your path into prayer. It touches how you love, turning relationship into revelation. You stop loving for what you get. You love because it is who you are. You love not to be filled, but to overflow. Not to seek safety, but to offer sanctuary. This is abundance. This is the rich life, not free from pain, but infused with meaning. Not always easy, but always whole. Not perfect, but profoundly sacred. You do not need to wait for some great awakening, some dramatic turning point. The shift is already here, in your breath, in your gaze, in the quiet yes that rises from your heart when you remember. This moment is enough. And as you live from that knowing, you become less interested in chasing dreams and more devoted to embodying your essence. The world may still offer distractions. The mind may still whisper doubts. But your center, your true, rooted, radiant center will remain untouched because it is grounded in truth. And the truth is you are already connected to the source of all things. There is nothing missing in you, nothing absent, nothing broken. You are not here to gather worth. You are here to reveal it. You are not here to be more. You are here to remember that less fear, less noise, less resistance is actually the way back home. So continue to walk gently through your life, letting each moment be enough. Not as a resignation, but as a revelation. For when you can give thanks for what is, even as you long for what could be, you are living in the paradox of the awakened heart. You are living in the tension where transformation happens. You are living as a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between desire and devotion, between human and divine. And that is no small thing. That is grace. That is freedom. That is abundance made manifest through the sacred vessel that is you. So let this final breath of truth wrap around you like a sacred shawl, gently woven with every thread of awareness you've touched in this journey. Let it settle not just in your mind, but in the deeper soil of your being. For you have not merely heard words, you have remembered a way of seeing, a way of living, a way of being that was always yours, just waiting to be returned to. Gratitude is not the end, it is the eternal beginning, the doorway through which all blessings walk, the soft soil where joy takes root. The holy posture that says to life, I will no longer demand from you, I will dance with you. You become the participant, not the puppet, the vessel, not the victim. The witness of wonder in a world that once felt like chaos. And from this sacred seat within yourself, the world no longer appears fragmented. You stop seeing through the lens of separation, this and that, good and bad, right and wrong. You begin to see wholeness. You begin to see the divine choreography, even in what once felt like delay, detour, or disaster. You begin to see that life was never punishing you, it was polishing you, softening the edges, breaking the shell so the light within you could pour through. This is the wisdom of the soul. It doesn't seek to escape difficulty. It seeks to bless it. It seeks to walk through fire barefoot and leave behind footprints of gold. And gratitude, when anchored deep in the soul, turns even suffering into sacred fuel. It does not erase the ache, it just refuses to let the ache be wasted. It transmutes pain into presence. It teaches you to say, even with tears in your eyes, thank you for this too, is part of my becoming. And in that surrender, in that tear-soaked, light-drenched surrender, something eternal begins to shine through you. Not borrowed light, not conditional light, your light. The light that was buried beneath striving, beneath fear, beneath the illusion that you had to earn what you already are. You are not here to be grateful only when things are easy. You are here to be grateful because it is your nature. Because the soul, in its most awakened state, does not need life to meet its expectations. It meets life with reverence, with devotion, with open hands and soft eyes. And those hands, those eyes, are your gift to the world. Not because they fix anything, but because they see differently. They see with the eyes of love. They see with the eyes of source. And they remind others, without saying a word, that it is safe to return home. Because you, beloved, are now a home, a sanctuary of stillness in a hurried world, a beacon of presence in a culture of distraction, a living, breathing embodiment of what happens when someone stops chasing and starts cherishing. So go now, not back to the life you had, but forward into the life you now see with new eyes. Let your footsteps be a prayer. Let your laughter be a hymn. Let your silence be a sanctuary. And above all, let your gratitude be your compass. It will never mislead you. For when you are grateful, truly and quietly grateful, you are no longer waiting to be blessed. You are blessing the world with your very being. You are not walking toward abundance. You are the path upon which abundance flows. And as you live this way, each moment becomes enough. Each breath becomes sacred. Each heartbeat becomes a thank you. And life begins to bloom in ways the mind could never have planned. Because now, you are not creating from fear. You are creating from fullness. You are not asking, what can I take? You are asking, what can I give? You are not hoping to be chosen. You are realizing you already are. You have always been, and so it is. Let gratitude lead you home. Let it keep you soft. Let it make you rich in the only way that truly matters. For when gratitude becomes your way of being, abundance is no longer a destination. It is your natural state. And now, you remember? There comes a moment quiet as a breath, soft as morning light, when you stop running, you stop reaching. Not because the journey is over, but because something ancient stirs in you, something sacred that whispers not of what is missing, but of what has always been present. And in that holy stillness, the truth begins to dawn, not like a sudden revelation, but like the sun slowly rising over the ocean of your soul. You already have enough. You, beloved, have been born whole, not one day in the distant future, not after you earn it, deserve it, prove it. From the first flutter of life within your mother's womb, you were declared complete by the very source that breathes stars into existence. There is nothing broken in you, nothing missing, nothing that must be added for you to be worthy of love, of peace, of joy. You are the sacred whole pretending to be incomplete, the eternal flame wrapped in temporary shadow, the vast ocean disguised as a wave. But the world taught you otherwise. It told you that you must strive, compete, accumulate. It sold you the story that you are not enough unless you become more and more beautiful, more successful, more liked, more productive. And so you became a collector of more chasing external validation like a mirage on the horizon. Yet each time you reached it, the thirst remained. Why? Because you cannot drink truth from the cup of illusion. You already have enough. Not in the sense that your possessions are sufficient, but in the deeper, eternal sense that you are already whole. The enoughness I speak of is not a measure of quantity, it is a state of being. It is the deep abiding peace that arises when you stop confusing your identity with your achievements, when you stop measuring your worth by the standards of a world that has forgotten the soul. You were never meant to be what others expect. You were born to be what the divine expressed. Look at nature, it does not strive to impress. The tree does not apologize for how slowly it grows. The ocean does not beg to be deeper. The stars do not compete for brightness. Each simply is radiant, unhurried, sufficient, and so are you. The great illusion of the ego is lack. It whispers that there is something wrong with you, that you must hustle to be worthy, that your value lies in doing rather than being. But the soul knows better. The soul does not strive. The soul does not beg. The soul simply shines. It knows its worth because it remembers its source. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." The Tao reminds us, "He who knows he has enough is rich." And Rumi, with the elegance of a mystic, said, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" These are not poetic metaphors. They are soul truths, echoes of the eternal wisdom that lives inside you now, waiting not to be earned, but to be recognized. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath, not as a mechanical function, but as a divine rhythm. Each inhale is a receiving. Each exhale is a releasing. In this sacred exchange, you lack nothing. The breath does not demand payment. It is freely given, just like life, just like love, just like the grace that has carried you through every storm, even the ones you thought would break you. You already have enough. You have enough courage to rise again, even if your hands still tremble. You have enough love to heal the wounds you thought were permanent. You have enough light to find your way home in the darkest night. The answers you seek do not live in someone else's book, someone else's approval, someone else's arms. They live in the quiet chamber of your own soul, behind the noise of your doubt, beyond the fog of your forgetting. And what if your life was not a journey to attain something new, but a sacred unveiling of what has always been there? What if every breakdown was a breakthrough in disguise, sent not to punish you, but to peel away the false and reveal the true? What if your heartbreaks were not failures, but sacred doorways into deeper compassion? What if your emptiness was not a curse, but a call to stop stuffing your soul with distractions and return to the divine fullness already within? You already have enough, not just materially, spiritually, energetically. You have the wisdom of the stars in your cells. You have the memory of wholeness in your heart. You have the divine blueprint encoded in your very breath. You do not need to become enlightened. You are enlightenment, temporarily pretending to be lost. You do not need to seek love. You are love, experiencing itself in form. The greatest lie you were ever told is that you must earn what you already are. And the most profound freedom you will ever know is the moment you realize you don't have to. Let the world chase illusions. Let others build towers of ego and climb mountains of validation. You be still. Sink deep into the ground of your being. Feel the sacred enoughness that has always been your foundation. In this stillness, miracles happen not because you forced them, but because you finally got out of the way. You don't have to do more. You don't have to be more. You don't have to fix what was never broken. The ego says, improve. The soul says, remember. The ego screams, you are not there yet. The soul whispers, you have never left. Stop trying to outrun your humanity. Embrace it. Bow to it. Let it be the very altar upon which your divinity dances. Because your scars do not diminish your light, they refract it. Your flaws do not obscure your holiness, they reveal the texture of your soul's depth. And your fears, they do not disqualify you. They are simply shadows cast by the light you have forgotten is yours. You already have enough, even when you feel like you don't. Even when you doubt, when you stumble, when you forget, especially then. Because enoughness is not a feeling, it is a truth. It is not something you earn, it is something you are. You were not born to strive, you were born to shine. And the only thing standing in the way is the thought that something is missing. But there is nothing missing in you. There never was. There never will be. Let this be the day you stop measuring yourself by a broken ruler. Let this be the hour you return, not to perfection, but to presence. Let this be the breath where you remember not with your mind, but with your being that you already have enough. You are enough. You are whole. You are home. And that, beloved, is more than enough. And as you sit now with this truth warming your chest like morning sun through a window, notice how your very being softens. The mind, so used to racing, so trained in doubt, begins to slow, not because it has all the answers, but because it is no longer trying to prove the question. You are never the question. You have always been the answer. The sacred wordless answer wrapped in form and breath and ache and joy. You are the poem life is still reciting, not for applause, but for the beauty of its own echo. There is no final summit, no last prize that when earned will whisper, now you are enough. That voice has always whispered. You've just been taught to ignore it, taught to listen to the louder voice, the voice of culture, of comparison, of not yet, but the whisper is still there. It never left. It lives in the spaces between your thoughts, in the tears you don't understand, in the longing that has no name. It lives in the stillness after surrender, when you finally stop trying to win your own love. You see, the soul never asked you to perform. It never required applause. It only asked you to feel, to remember, to allow. But we became performers in a theater of forgetting. We put on the costume of getting there, of not quite, of someday. And in doing so, we hid our radiance behind roles that never truly fit. We dimmed our own light and called it humility. We denied our sufficiency and called it discipline. But the truth is, the greatest act of courage is to finally, irrevocably accept yourself. Not the self you show the world, but the one who exists before effort, before shame, before identity. That self, the unnameable, unshakable beingness beneath all striving, is what is holy. And when you live from that place, everything shifts. You begin to live with your soul at the helm, not because you learned something new, but because you unlearned everything that told you you weren't enough. It's not that you must stop growing. Growth is sacred, but not when it is rooted in lack. Grow because you are enough, not because you aren't. Create from overflow, not from emptiness. Serve because you remember, not because you are trying to be remembered. Let your life bloom not to be impressive, but to be expressed. You are not a seed trying to become a tree. You are the tree already planted, already rooted, already reaching. The seed was never separate from the oak. It was the oak in hiding. And so it is with you. Every ache you've ever felt was the cracking open of that seed. Every heartbreak was the soil breaking loose so you could rise. Every time you thought you were being buried, you were actually being planted. And now, beloved, you are rising. Not because you've acquired something, but because you finally laid something down. The burden of proving, the armor of pretending, the weight of false identity. What a sacred relief it is to no longer strive, to no longer chase love, because you've remembered you are its very source. This is not resignation, it is revelation. It is the sacred turning inward, the bowing of the ego at the feet of the soul. It is the silent revolution that begins when you no longer seek the light, because you realize you are the light. Let the world say what it will. Let it misunderstand you, undervalue you, overlook you. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be free. And freedom does not come from convincing, it comes from remembering, from knowing that your worth was never up for debate. It was sealed into you by the hand of the infinite. Your breath is the signature of God. Your being is the evidence of enoughness. And if you could see yourself as the universe sees you, even for a moment, your heart would burst with awe. There is no part of you that is unworthy of love. No moment in your story that disqualifies you from grace. Even your pain, especially your pain, has been holy. It carved the space where the light now enters. It shaped your compassion, molded your depth, softened your pride. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear. Not one night spent wondering. Not one fall from grace. Every step brought you here. To this remembering. And this remembering is not just for you. When one soul remembers its enoughness, it sends ripples into the collective. Your healing becomes a map for others. Your wholeness becomes a mirror. You do not have to preach. You do not have to teach. You only have to be, and your being will do the rest. There is a power and presence that no performance can match, a power that doesn't need words because it is felt in the silence. This world is not in need of more noise. It is starving for stillness, and stillness is born of enoughness. It is born of the sacred sigh that leaves your lips when you realize, I am already home. You may not have everything you want, but you already are everything you need. And when that truth roots in you, not just in your thoughts, but in your bones, you become untouchable. Not in the sense that nothing can hurt you, but in the deeper sense that nothing can define you. You move through joy and sorrow with equal reverence. You begin to see that everything is happening not to break you, but to wake you. Not to punish, but to polish. Not to deprive, but to direct. What if your life has never been off course? What if every detour was the path? What if the enoughness you seek was never at the finish line, but has been walking beside you all along? Breathe that in. Let it settle. Let it undo the grip of striving. Let it soften the corners of your self-judgment. You have tried so hard. You have carried so much. And now you are allowed to rest. Not because the work is done, but because you no longer believe your worth is tied to the outcome. You already have enough. You are already the flame, not the one lighting the fire, but the fire itself. There is something unspeakably holy about simplicity. The kind of simplicity that arrives not by shrinking the world, but by expanding your awareness of what truly matters. The deeper you go into yourself, the more the clutter of illusion falls away. Not with force, but with grace. Like leaves letting go of a tree in autumn, because they were never meant to stay. You begin to see how little you need in order to feel whole, because wholeness is not something you build, it's something you return to. When you stop defining your life by what you accumulate, you begin to remember yourself by what you emanate. You become less concerned with impressions and more devoted to expression. You cease reaching outward and begin radiating inward. The energy of needing becomes the energy of knowing. And from knowing arises peace, not the passive kind, but the radiant, grounded kind that walks through storms without losing its center. You do not need to chase after your purpose as though it's hiding from you. Your purpose is not a prize, it is a presence. It is not something you find, it is something you allow. It lives in the way you speak when your heart is open, in the way your eyes soften when you truly see another, in the way your soul breathes more deeply when you align with truth. Your purpose is not an event, it is a frequency. And you are already tuned to it if you will only stop changing the station out of fear. Every comparison is a forgetting. Every moment you measure your life against another's timeline is a moment you silence your own soul's wisdom. You were never meant to be a replica of someone else's light. You were created to shine in a way that only you can. And the moment you abandon imitation is the moment your true power begins to flow. Not a power of dominance, but of authenticity. The kind of power that turns heads, not with volume, but with vibration. You are not here to compete. You are here to remember. To remember that your uniqueness is not a flaw, it is your fingerprint from the divine. No one else can bring your exact essence into the world. No one else can breathe your breath, love your way, walk your soul's path. To try to become someone else is to dim the very miracle that is you. And the world doesn't need another copy, it needs the unfiltered, unmasked, unrepeatable light that you carry. Can you feel it now? That subtle shift inside you. The space that opens when you no longer resist what is. That, beloved, is alignment. That is surrender. That is the sacred return. You do not have to solve your life like a puzzle. You only have to live it like a prayer. Each step a bow, each word a blessing, each silence a sanctuary. You begin to recognize that even your breath is an act of worship when it is taken in awareness. The ego wants outcomes. The soul desires openness. The ego fears the unknown. The soul welcomes the unfolding. The ego clings to control. The soul lives in communion. And each time you choose soul over ego, you align with the rhythm of life itself. You stop pushing the river and allow yourself to float. Not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. You trust that the same force that turns acorns into forests and embryos into human beings is shaping your life with equal precision. There is no need to resist the rhythm. Even your seasons of waiting are sacred. Even your moments of doubt are seeds of depth. Even your silence speaks volumes in the language of the divine. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. You do not need to be certain to be true. You do not need to be flawless to be whole. What you need is already here, presence. That holy, spacious awareness that wraps its arms around whatever arises and says, this too belongs. So stop withholding your peace. Stop placing conditions on your joy. There is no future version of you that will be more worthy of freedom than the one sitting here right now. The doorway is not ahead of you, it is beneath your very feet. All that is required is that you stop stepping over it and instead step through. Let life be as it is, not because you are powerless to change it, but because true change begins with acceptance. You cannot transform what you still resist. You cannot evolve while denying the ground you stand on. And so, let this be your holy ground, this moment, this breath, this being. And when you begin to walk this way, not chasing, not proving, but simply allowing something miraculous occurs, you begin to feel life loving you back. The synchronicities, the clarity, the quiet knowing. They are not accidents, they are echoes. Echoes of your return to your natural state of enoughness. When you no longer grasp, you open. And what flows into that openness is everything you once thought you had to earn. You were never meant to grip life so tightly. You were meant to dance with it, to let it move through you like music, to trust its pauses as much as its crescendos, to let go of needing the next note to make sense, and instead revel in the melody unfolding moment by moment. There's no destination more sacred than this. To live so fully aligned with your soul that even in uncertainty you feel whole. To walk the world not needing to be more, but choosing to be deeply, utterly present. Because, beloved, you already have enough. There is a place within you where the wind does not reach, where time loses its grip, where wounds are not bandaged, but transfigured into wisdom. That place is not reserved for the chosen, nor built through effort. It is your original home, the unchanging space of awareness, untouched by identity. You do not need to fight your way back to it. You need only stop turning away. You see, wholeness has never required your perfection. It only requires your presence. And when you stop trying to fix what was never broken, you begin to see the divine intelligence, even in your detours. What once felt like failure begins to feel like preparation. What once looked like delay reveals itself as divine timing. You start to realize that every unanswered prayer was a doorway to a greater alignment. Every no you received echoed a deeper yes, whispered by the universe. And as you rest into this deeper rhythm, you feel something loosening, perhaps the tightness in your chest that has lived there since childhood, or the belief that you had to earn love by becoming smaller or smarter or more pleasing. Let it go now. Not with force, with grace, with forgiveness. With the understanding that you were never wrong for longing, never wrong for not knowing, never wrong for simply being human. Even your uncertainty was sacred. You were never behind. You were never late. You were simply blooming according to a timeline the world does not understand. Like the lotus that takes years beneath the surface before it blossoms in beauty above the water, you too have been becoming in silence, preparing in shadows, softening in sorrow. And now, here you are not complete because you added something, but because you finally laid something down. And what is left in the absence of all that grasping, striving, and fixing? Peace. Not the brittle peace of avoidance, but the deep-rooted peace of coming home. The kind of peace that arises when you stop editing yourself, when you breathe without apology, when you speak not to be accepted, but because silence is no longer an option. When you allow joy to visit you even when the world insists it is inappropriate. That kind of peace is not earned, it is remembered. And in that remembrance, your eyes begin to see differently. You no longer look out at the world through the lens of scarcity. You see not just objects or obstacles, but symbols, messages, miracles. The tree outside your window is no longer just a tree, it is a sermon in stillness. The stranger's smile on the street becomes an echo of your own light reflected back to you. Even your own breath becomes a sacred chant. Inhale, I am. Exhale, enough. There is a holiness to this way of living. A reverence not tied to religion, but born of intimacy with life itself. You begin to taste the divine in a glass of water. Hear God's voice in the quiet between words. Feel eternity pulsing in the most fleeting of moments, because everything becomes more vivid, more tender, more real when seen through the eyes of presence. You are not here to endure your life. You are here to feel it, to taste, to witness it, to let it shape you not into something better, but into something truer. And the truth is, you were always this vast, this sacred, this enough. You just forgot. And now you remember, not with the mind that analyzes, but with the heart that recognizes. Not with logic, but with love. Not through proof, but through presence. And as this remembering deepens, you find yourself speaking less from the surface and more from the soul. Your words slow down. Your movements become intentional. You stop rushing to the next thing and begin to meet the moment like an old friend. You learn that silence is not emptiness, but fullness beyond words. That rest is not laziness, but alignment. That the real treasure is not at the end of your to-do list, but hidden in plain sight, in the rhythm of your breath, in the warmth of your hands, in the stillness of now. There is no need to rush this process. There is no finish line, no final arrival. This journey is not about becoming extraordinary. It is about reclaiming the ordinary as sacred. Washing the dishes becomes a ceremony of devotion. Tending to your body becomes an act of reverence. Holding space for another becomes a prayer without words. Life, in its simplest moments, becomes your greatest teacher. And what you learn is this: nothing more is required of you. You do not need to chase transformation. It is already happening with every surrendered breath. You do not need to force love. You are swimming in it. You do not need to seek power. The power is in your presence. You are already full, already worthy, already home, and when the world forgets, because it will when it tempts you again with the lie that you must achieve more, become more, do more to be loved, remember this truth not as an idea, but as a way of being. You already have enough. You have not journeyed to become more. You have not wandered to find what was lost. You have traveled only to remember what was never absent. And now, like a circle coming full, like a wave folding back into the ocean, you stand once more at the threshold of your own being, not as a seeker, but as a witness. You look into the mirror and you no longer see lack staring back. You see life. Raw, real, radiant, not flawless, but beautiful in its honesty. Not polished, but luminous in its vulnerability. You meet your own eyes and you no longer beg them for proof. You see the fire, the softness, the sacred resilience of a soul that has weathered every storm and still dares to love again. You begin to understand that wholeness is not an achievement, it is an acceptance. It is not the result of fixing every flaw, but of embracing every piece, even the parts you once exiled, especially those. The forgotten child within you, the trembling self who needed more time. The shadow you denied each one is welcomed back now, each one held in the warmth of your awakening heart. And what a miracle it is to no longer abandon yourself, to no longer demand that joy wait until the circumstances are perfect, to no longer withhold your own embrace until you've earned it. You stand now not on the edge of something greater, but at the very center of it, the sacred now, the holy inhale, the stillness that has always known your name. This is not the end. It is the beginning of living from enoughness, the beginning of no longer seeking the light, but realizing you are the flame. The beginning of walking through the world not asking, am I worthy, but declaring, I am. And as you walk this path of presence, you carry no banner, wear no badge. You do not need to prove your peace. It is felt in your silence. It is known in your gaze. It is offered in the way you hold space for others to remember themselves. This, beloved, is the quiet revolution of the soul. Not a storm, a sunrise. Not a roar, a presence, not a conquest, a return. You return to the moment with reverence. You return to your breath with gratitude. You return to the world with softness. And the world, once harsh and sharp in its edges, begins to soften in response. Because when you remember you are enough, you remind others that they are too. And that is the healing. Not to fix the world, but to embody truth so deeply that the illusion of lack begins to dissolve wherever you stand. You become the space where peace breathes more freely. The voice that speaks without urgency, the soul that offers love without condition. And though the path may still twist, though the winds may still rise, you no longer fear the unknown. You have walked through the wilderness of forgetting and emerged with the only treasure that matters, remembrance. Remembrance that you are not separate. Remembrance that you are not broken. Remembrance that you are not becoming, you are being. You already have enough, not someday. Not if, now, here, always. And so, return. Return to the quiet. Return to the sacred. Return to yourself. And know deeply, finally, forever, you were never missing. You were never lacking. You were never not enough. You are the light. You are the love. You are the miracle. You are the way home. And now, you have arrived.